Well, that's my car. It accepts you this way. Like by Noach Steva, you know Noach Steva?
Huh?
By Noach Steva.
Yeah.
Didn't ask him permission. But the Teva opened its gate.
Oh yeah.
All right. We'll start in the line that begins with the words Dimei HaMiluyim. It's 7 lines from the bottom. You'll have a few lines over here that are essentially sort of like oases. We can't really get our teeth into it, but later on we'll get back to it. Hini hakli yokor. You have that? Hakli yokor kosav. The Kli Yakar writes, the Shmini LeMiluyim mashma, that from the word Shmini LeMiluyim, the 8th day of the Miluyim, that seems to be implying the Yom Zeh Hu Mimei HaMiluyim, that this day itself, the Shmini, the 8th day, is part of the days called Miluyim. Miluyim, we already explained that the word Miluyim means that which fills the midas, the moichin, the oil ha-moichin that comes down and fills the midas. So it says that the 8th day, from the word Shmini LeMiluyim, it seems to be implying that the 8th day is also part of the Imei Miluyim. V'zeh einoi, but this is not so, the Kli Yakar says. Sharei ksiv, because it says clearly in the Pasuk, Shivas Yomim Imalei Yasyatchem. 7 days he will fill your hand, meaning he will inaugurate you and give you the power to do it. V'oimer, and then the Kli Yakar says, Lihayois di biyoim zeh, because that in this day, Hoyo Gilu Shechina, in this day, the 8th day, there was the Gilu of the Shechina. Ukmei shekosuv ki hayoim hava Hashem havaya nira aleichem. Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, today, the Hashem will appear, will reveal himself to them, the 8th day. Uma yoim miyemai. What is this day any different than the previous days? Lama b'yem zeh dafke. Why exclusively in this day, the 8th day, loy b'yomim ha'koidmim, not in the previous days? Why was it the Shekhinah revealed on this day, the 8th, and not the previous days? Al zeh omar. So for this he says, hatam, the reason, the Kli Yakar says the reason that it was on this day, Liheyoisoi Yoim Hashmini, because it is the 8th day. There's something special in the 8th. The Shmini, because the 8th, he says, Hu Misper Mekudosh, is a number that has a quality, a holy quality. Ve'al she'omer b'medrash, similar to what it says in the Medrash. Kol kilusei shel Moshe, all the praises that Moshe Rabbeinu pronounced to Hashem. Ba'oz, he began with the word Oz. Oz is an Aleph and a Zayin. Zayin is 7, and then there is the Aleph, which is in addition to the 7. As it says in the Pasuk, Umeyoz Bosi, Oz Yoshir. what is this, and what does this represent? What is this Oz? V'hu Hashem roichev al zayin. This is the Shekhinah that rides on top of the seven. Shehein zayin koich ve'leches. The seven are the zayin, the seven koich ve'leches. The seven koich ve'leches means the stars of the universe, the stars that surround the universe. Essentially, the Gashmi that refers to the planets. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yichido Shel Olam, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, He is the Yochid, is the Aleph. Roichev Al Zayin, He rides on top of these seven. Hainu, which means the Zehu K'meshekosov, that this is, as the Pasuk says, Roichev Shomayim Be'ezrecha. Roichev Shomayim means Hashem who dwells and He occupies the Shomayim, the heavens. He rides on top of the heavens. Be'ezrecha, He comes to your help. Be'ozer. And what does this mean practically? The binyone hateva. It means that in teva, in the natural world, in the natural aspect, tiye ha'hanahoga, the conduct should be b'derech l'maylo mehateva. That the conduct in teva should be in a manner that is above teva, not limited to teva. One more line and then we'll stop for a moment. Hakavona bozeh, and what he means to say is, sheyiru v'yargishu, that they should seek and feel, shezel l'maylo mehateva, that this in fact is above teva. All right, so just as we spoke before, that there are 7 midas. Zion, 7 midas. These 7 midas, this represents, this is why the world was created in 7 days. Each day is related to another midah. I'm sure you know that Shabbos is related to midas HaMalchus. And then it starts, Sunday is Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, in that order, Netzach Yisod. And then comes Shabbos, which is Malchus. This is in 7 days. The cycle of 7 days represents Teva, nature, which we'll now have a chance to discuss the principle of nature. And then there is Roichev Shomayim Be'ezrech. Then there is the Elokus that is above nature. This is the Aleph. Moshe Rabbeinu said Kilusim, praises and exaltation to Hashem, using the word Oz. Because in Oz there's a remez that there is the Zion and then there's the Aleph on top. And what is the implication? What is the meaning of a praise? The meaning of the praise is that even though that there is Teva, Zion is 7, and everything appears to be running according to Teva, the truth is that no, that it's all actually bottled to the Aleph. Rechev Shomayim, that the whole Teva is actually representative of the Aleph, of that which is higher than Teva. And when Moshe Rabbeinu said, this Rechev Shomayim Be'ezrecha, this is a apostle. In Tzeis HaBrocha, when Moshe Rabbeinu was giving Eden the brachas before he passed away, he was blessing the entire Jewish nation, and he said, Rechev Shomayim Be'ezrecha. And the Rebbe explains, Yaakov, what is the meaning of that blessing? Rechev Shomayim, when you say Hashem, Rechev Shomayim Be'ezrecha, Rechev Shomayim, the one who rides the heavens. That blessing has a very specific meaning. That not only that Hashem should come to you, rescue, when you have to break the teva, when you have to break nature, something unnatural, Hashem comes to you rescue. Reichav Shomayim Be'ezrecha means that the Shomayim, which is represents in his Zion, which represents teva, it should be obvious that Roichiv Shomayim, that which is above, which rides on top of the Shomayim, that is Be'ezrech. That even should be able to recognize all the time the principle that Teva itself really is coming and is supported and represents that which is higher than Teva. It's been Dreich of Shomayim Be'ezrech. For us to get an understanding of this is a very significant thing, a very important thing to understand. We can understand it, especially in our day, we can understand it very well, because this Inyan, Teva versus above Teva, this became sort of like the conflict, the philosophical conflict of today. Is the world all Teva? Or is the world really coming from that which is higher than Teva? Was the world created? Or did the world create itself? And everything we see in the world is entirely a natural development? Or is there a creative power in the world that creates Teva and brings itself through Teva, but really what you're looking at is a power that is higher than Teva. For us, this actually boils down to very simple things. For us to understand that the body has all kinds of mechanisms. The body is a very complex, extremely complex structure, with wisdom unfathomable. How it's all constructed, how there's so many different organs. Each organ fills a different function. We have the liver that cleans the blood, and we have the kidneys, and everything has its function to allow the person to live and be healthy. And we look at a person and say, oh, everything is fine. But we don't understand what every breath actually affects, how it all happens. I remember I was working on computers one time, I'm sure you're aware, and I developed a program, what's called a data entry program. A program that would take the keystrokes from the screen, read the keystrokes, and when you hit the key, it's called a keystroke. When you hit the key on the keyboard, and it was able to construct it and send it to a program, and process it and send it back. Just taking things from the screen and giving it to a program and giving it back and processing. And after the program was finished, it was amazing, right? You hit this key and it comes back instantaneously and so forth. And one time I said to somebody, let me tell you exactly what happens when you hit this key. You think it's a very simple thing. You hit a key and it comes back. I happened to develop and design the whole program, so I knew exactly the whole process that takes place. It's mind-boggling. Except the computer is extremely fast, so you don't notice it. Every key that you hit, you went through maybe 100 different decisions what to do with it. And then he sends it back. And you know, lahavdil, what happens in a human being when he says a word, when he breathes, when the blood absorbs the air, the oxygen, and cleans it out and sends it out from the whole body, it's a myriad thing. And as a result of that, because there are so many different things that work together, it is very easy to come to the conclusion that it's all a natural thing. The entire phenomenon is a natural thing. One thing pushes the other, one thing pushes the other, and that's what a human being is. And we have this insight, we have this gift to understand and to know that that is not a natural thing. Yes, it goes through a natural process, but the natural process itself has a life to it. And the life comes from the neshama. The reason that everything works together is because there's a spark in the neshama that gives a life to this body, and this is why everything functions in this organized fashion. And the important thing is not just to know that there is a life that keeps it alive, that keeps it going. The important thing for us to know is that we should not be blinded by the bodily function or by the natural function, and should recognize that everything that we see in nature is really a godly presence, is really a higher than nature. Just like in a human being, there's nothing that happens in the body. When we see the body and look at the body, we see the neshama. We don't see the body. We see the neshama through the body. Because the whole thing is a neshama in neshama presence, effect. This is the pshat reichev shomayim be'ezrecha. Ezrecha means to help you out in the natural world. Chas v'sholem, you didn't have a war, so war is a natural thing. You have to go out and fight and put yourself out in danger. And then when you get help because your army conquered the enemy army. With a lot of sweat and a lot of sacrifice. The truth is that what happened over here is Reichev Shomayim. That which is above the nature, above the Shomayim, this is what conducted this whole war, and that brought it to the successful conclusion. To see that Teva itself is really higher than Teva. This is the Oz. This is the Aleph on top of the Zayin. That's the 8th day, as we're going to see now. Okay. The be'emes, you have it at the end of the second line. The be'emes, because in truth, harei teva atzmei hu l'maylo mehateva. The truth is that the teva itself is above teva, is above nature. The meaning of these words, Ateva Atzmu L'mayla Mehateva, is The very fact that things react in a natural way, even in a natural teva, very fact that things react in a natural way, that itself is not really natural, it is really above nature. Except we don't recognize it. And I want to give you a very simple illustration of the principle. In our world, we are aware of our immediate surrounding. Like when we're in this room, we are aware of this room. We're not aware that this room is part of a big house, and this house is part of a street, and the street is part of a neighborhood, the neighborhood is part of a city, and the city is part of a state, and part of a country, and part of a continent, and part of the world. And that the world itself is part of a huge expanse, infinite expanse. We totally unaware of it. Right? We are aware of this immediate surrounding. Because of that, when I give this watch a push and the watch moves, I say, you know the reason the watch moved? It's simple, because you kicked it. That's why it moved. Now let's say if this watch existed in a very limited place that it occupies right now. This is the only place that the watch has. There's no further place. Now we'd kick it. Will it move? It wouldn't move. No place to move. So why does the watch move? Because it has a place to move. Not because I kick it. The very fact that there's such a thing as kicking it exists is because there is space around. I couldn't even kick it if I didn't have space to move my finger. If everything occupied just its own place, that's all it has. It didn't have any other place but its own occupation. Then nature wouldn't exist. Nature exists. The truth is, nature exists. I said, because there is this in the house, and there is the street, and there is the continent, and there is the world, and there is infinite space, which is l'mayla me'ateva altogether. It's nothing to do with teva. So, for a person to be given that privilege, to recognize how everything in Teva is really representative of something which is l'mayla me'ateva. This is what Baal Shem Tov says, that when a leaf turns over in the street, it's hashgacha protis. It's a godly phenomenon. Not only is it not a natural phenomenon, you know what I'm saying, that it kicked over. It's a godly phenomenon. And if not for the godly spark that's in here, it couldn't happen.
Why is an infinite amount of space indicative of l'mayla me'ateva?
Simply just to answer you, infinity is not a Teva d'gezach. Teva means cause and effect. Cause and effect means that there is an end to this and an end to this, and these two clash.
Even in space there are limits.
What?
Even in space there are limits. Two things can't exist in the same place
In the same time. That's right. But space itself Perception is it's like it expands as you need it, conceptually. It's really infinite.
Now, to the Torah, is the expanse of space infinite?
Right. The expanse of space is infinite in terms of Apitera. There's a definition to the word space, created space. But yes, definitely relative to our existence, it's infinite. I don't want to go into the entire ramification of this terminology. I just wanted to illustrate to you that which seems to be so simple and so obvious, with a little insight, you see that it's not that simple, not so obvious.
No, well, I'm not quite sure though. Why is? I mean, even if we were to say that seemingly there is an infinite amount of space, so why is that?
I'll explain to you what it means. Just as in the neshama in the guf, when we say that the neshama gives life to the guf, and the reason the guf is able to function is because there's a neshama in it. What is the neshama in the guf relative to the guf? Does the neshama have the? Is there in the neshama such a thing as kicking the watch? Is this action rooted in the neshama?
It would have to be, wouldn't it?
The action itself. The neshama is an infinitely higher entity, quality than kicking the watch.
So it's spiritual.
But the Ratzain is from the neshama.
That's right. The Ratzain and the Seder, and then it goes into the goof and it goes into the finger. It goes through many, many gyrations until it becomes a kick. But this kick is facilitated by the infinity in the neshama.
Facilitate?
Made possible. It's not that the neshama has this particular ability and says, okay, let me use this ability. Then it would never happen. The neshama has an infinite capacity. And then it trickles down into the finger to cook it. This is the same thing. That which allows this watch to move is not that it allows this movement. It allows every movement. Infinite movement. That's why there is this smooth movement. And this is what we see. Teva, we take it for granted. But really, Teva is an amazing thing. You kick this watch and it moves and it's smooth. There is nothing happens. Oh, you want it to be here? Okay. Even though before it was here. What happened to this space that it moved out from? Came right back in.
I don't understand if you're just saying that Teva is such an amazing thing. All Teva is the Mailim and Teva. So why is it any more depicted when you flick the watch and it moves rather than you say if you were put the watch in a limited space where it couldn't move and you flicked it and it didn't move? I mean, seemingly if that's also Teva. So why does one seem to depict infinity and that which is above nature, and the other seemingly we're not using an example of you put a watch in the cup and you try to flick the watch and it doesn't go anywhere because it's surrounded by the cup. So that's also Teva. So shouldn't we also be able to see the amazing aspect of nature which is above itself in that?
You mean the inactivity of nature should also reveal infinity?
Well, if the idea is that Teva
No,
is
you
the Mailim and Teva.
You misunderstood what I'm pointing out that in this movement of watch, you are actually witnessing the fact that this limited space is part of a much greater and infinite space. That's all I'm saying. And that this watch is occupying this little space. It's not just occupying this little space within this little space. This little space within an infinity of space. This is why its presence is so real and so universal and uncontested. Because I don't know if you understand the implication of all these words. It's a wholesome presence. And we spoke all the time that we see in sight we experience reality. Why is it reality? Because it's not limited just to this. There is full provision for it to be there. Not like the other view, the natural view, is that everything is actually constantly fighting for its right to be. You know what I'm saying? From if you look at the world from a worldly perspective only, then nothing has real presence. If something exists, it's because it fought its way out. It displaced something else. There isn't a real provision for it to be. It has to make its way to be. We don't see that's real at all. We say, no, forget, there is an infinite provision for it to be. And even though this is a small thing, but it's a real thing. It was provided the right to be. Teva itself is really L'mayla me'ateva. Because Teva itself is greater than Teva. You got the point? Did you get the point?
I understand very much what you're saying, that Teva is a L'mayla me'ateva, but...
Did you get the point? You get the point?
With the example you're using, I don't know, maybe it's...
I understand like how the Teva is L'mayla me'ateva, like the sun, let's say. Sun, like each year he's do the circle, and like for simple people it's like Teva, it's nature. They see it all the time. So it's like it's nature, it has to be like this. But if you think deeply, like how it's not changed and the same light all the time.
Right. That's something else already. This is where in Teva itself there are certain specific instances that clearly demonstrate that this is L'mayla me'ateva. Like we learned about the sun, that it doesn't lose its power over all the many years, and that how all the whole cosmos combines together to accomplish one single thing. So we see a superior power. We see L'mayla me'ateva itself. Not that Teva is L'mayla me'ateva. We see L'mayla me'ateva. That this is not a natural thing. That everything, so many different, unrelated, separate entities should combine their forces to focus on one, to accomplish one single thing.
But you're talking about another thing.
I'm talking about another thing. I'm talking about Teva, the simple presence of Teva.
I mean, I would think one part which you said, which I understand, is that the fact that the existence of this cup is substantial to us is not because it exists right here, but because the potential of its existence is endless. It can exist in any given place. It's not limited to right here. But I'm not even sure how that translates to what you're saying about Teva.
Right. Let's take it from life, from the human being. Do you understand how the natural forces of the body are really L'mayla me'ateva? You do?
Do I personally, do I have like a conscious understanding?
Not conscious. Do you understand when you think about it?
Yeah, the fact that there's anything that's alive is l'mayla min hateva.
Why?
Why? Because seemingly there's no, you can't quantify life. I mean, it's
Life is life, the fact that you can't quantify it doesn't mean it's a minor hateva. The fact that you cannot identify it, but the medical profession has shown, tells you that what's going on in the body, and they can tell you. You know the story of the professor. The Rebbe writes it in a letter. The professor who studied anatomy. You know what anatomy is? Anatomy. And he came to know, the anatomy of a human being to great detail. And then he was so impressed by it that he sat down one time and he reflected every detail, everything that takes place when a person takes a step. One step. What happens? How it all takes place. From the brain on down to the step. It took him about an hour. He thought through every step. The entire nervous system, the muscular system, everything. Take a step. After he finished this reflection, he was immobilized. He wasn't able to make a step. He had to start learning how to walk from scratch like a child. So, what's happened over there? What happened was that he actually understood the entire natural process in a step. But he failed to recognize that really this natural process is not natural at all. That what facilitates, what makes it possible, is a spark from the soul. If not for that spark, this entire process couldn't happen. What carries the message from here to here, what carries it further, is a spark of the soul. The real reason why he can make a step is not because he has the anatomy to make a step, but because he wants to take a step. I want to, so I can take a step. That this is what makes it possible. It's not the anatomy at all. But he fails to see it. Because he was saying to you, no, look at this. This is what happens. And then, when he finished reflecting, he disproved his own theory. Because he wasn't able to walk after that. So this is the point, that in any natural, I'm pointing out, I wanted to show you even in a simple physical environment. If we can, open our mind a little bit. But this is true regardless. All nature is really based on something which is above nature. And there are all kinds of little levels. There are people, unfortunately, who don't have the sense, don't experience, so to speak, the spark of the neshama, the life force. And even though everything originates from the neshama, from the life force, but they don't really relate to it, and to them, making a step is an effort. It's a real struggle. It's not instantaneous. I want to go, and he goes. He has to force himself to walk. Force himself to do anything. Because if he relies entirely on the natural process, he's incapable of doing it. Doesn't have that spirit. Everything is the spirit that's above the nature that keeps it going. This is true in a human being. We experience it all the time. But we don't pay attention to it. And we take it for granted. This is what happens. This is how it is. But if we reflect on it, we see that this is really something which is above Teva. And I explained to you in general that the principle that's above Teva, that in everything natural, behind the spirit, behind everything that's natural, is a presence that is completely beyond nature, that is infinite. And that facilitates and makes possible everything else. Like we would never imagine that this cup should move because I want it to move. I have to move it. If I want to move it, I have to pick it up physically and move it. And since I have to pick it up physically and move it, therefore it's a natural thing. It's moved. There's no spirit involved. I'm moving it. What is the truth? It's my will that's moving it. Because what makes it possible for me to pick it up and move it is because I want to. That's the real thing. All nature is really above nature. Except, we don't notice it. Elam, if not with Ella only. Shemipnei horgilus, eimar gishin zeis. Because of the being accustomed to it, we don't feel it. Hine, and thus, in reichav shomayim beyazrecho, this Indian, the message, the bracha, Moshe Rabbeinu says, reichav shomayim beyazrecho. What does that mean? Sheyargishu shu lamaylo me'ateva. That they should feel it. It's not that it should change. It's always the Eichel Shamayim. But Yargishu that they should feel and be able to completely, openly recognize this principle that the whole Teva is a mile and a half Teva. Okay.
Spiritual things is part of the devil, so it's higher than like rots and
The what?
spiritual things. It's nature or not nature? If the rotten is part of the nature, so it's like you move the cup as according to nature.
Right. So here again, there are madregas. This is what we call apitam v'das and lamayla b'tam v'das. Right? If you do something and you have a reason for it, you have a rotzen, but you want to do it, but what is the reason you want to do it? You have a reason. I want to do it because such and such. That's natural. But then, if there is a rotzen that is not a pitam v'das, it's just a rotzen directly from the nefesh. That's not a pitam v'das, therefore it's above nature. And here again we say that even though there is a rotzen that's apitam das, since I have this reason, this is why I want to do it. The truth is that even the rotzen that's apitam das is really motivated and given the force, the strength, by the rotzen above tamadas. I'll give you an illustration of this. A person doesn't want to be hungry. That's a pitam v'das. Because it's painful, right? It's a pitam v'das. Doesn't want to be hungry, doesn't want to be uncomfortable, doesn't want to be cold. He doesn't want to be insulted, he wants to be recognized, he wants to have covet. All kinds of different things. These are all within Tamadas. It can be expanded to a very broad spectrum of human life. And above all that is a simple rotzen. The rotzen is that the person has a rotzen lichyos, the will to live. The will to live. Now, let us take, don't take it seriously, but it's a correct logic. If he didn't live, then he wouldn't feel cold, he wouldn't feel hungry, he wouldn't feel insulted, he wouldn't have any of these things. And if he doesn't have any of these negative things, then he wouldn't want any of these positive things. So what's motivating? What's behind all of these apitam v'das is that he wants to live. Why? That's lo apitam v'das. It's not a limited concept, the wish to live. Because the desire to live is something which is way beyond explanation. This is a neshama thing. And because he has that desire, from this comes everything else. And he accepts it. All the discomfort that comes with it, and all the troubles, and all the responsibilities. And you say to him, look, you feel hungry? So why don't you end the whole process and finish? No, that's not an option. Because when you say that he doesn't want to be hungry and that's why he eats, that's only half the story. That's not the whole story. Deep down is a completely different perspective. You understand what I'm saying?
Person want to live, it's natural, but if you really think why he want to live, so it's not like desire that.
There's no explanation. No explanation means it's not natural. This is, this is not. There's no cause. It's not b'tapin. There's no reason, no explanation. It's not apitamadas. This is it. This is what he is. This is something, a power, which is beyond tamadas.
It's not because of oinen that the person wants to live. It's not because of oinen.
Oineg is also shalei pitamadas. There's a famous saying that Yisava Kodesh Baruch Hu dir b'tachtenim. Hashem desire to have a dir b'tachtenim. So then you ask, but why? Why do you desire that? The answer is that for a taiva you can ask a question. Somebody has a taiva. So maybe also we can ask the question of a taiva if I finish in kashas. So that's also l'malam mitavadas, even by human being. Got you with me? Because of our Kli Yakar, further the Kli Yakar writes, the Kli Yakar, by the way, is a Pirush on the Chumash that's readily available. It's a very rich Pirush on the Chumash. So the Kli Yakar writes, the Yom Hashmini Notal Eser HaToros, that the 8th day of Miluyim, that day was took what's called Eser HaToros, 10 crowns. Rashi brings it down on the Pasuk, that Eser HaToros, which means simply 10 firsts occurred on that day. That was a Chodesh Nisan, in the second year, and when in Midbar, and the Mishkan was built. So that day was crowned with 10 different crowns. The first day that Mishkan was set up, and then first the Shechina, and Korbanos and Nisim, and so forth. That's not all. So the Kli explains that this Yom Shmini, but the Gemara says not al Eser HaToros. Hu Inyan, what is the meaning of 10? After 10 crowns. It's the same Inyan when it says the Kinoir Sholemeis HaMoshiach, that the Kinoir, the harp or the violin, depending on the harp of Yemeis HaMoshiach, Yiyah Shel Shmeino Nimi, will be built on 8 strings. Right now, the basic expanse of sound is 7. There's seven basic notes. In Yemeis HaMoshiach, the key of Yemeis HaMoshiach will be 8 nimi. V'shal la'osid, and the key of la'osid lavai, even beyond Yemeis HaMoshiach, and la'osid means after tears amazing, asara nimi, be 10 nimi.
What does this mean? After Mashiach, it's going to be 10?
Right, Mashiach is 8 after tears amazing. Mashiach itself is going to be many. There are several levels, several periods, and all the ultimate in Osid Lavai, it will be 10 nimi. And okay, so again, what is the pshat? 8 and 10, 7, 8 and 10. That it will be revealing that which is above nature. I mean, revealing how in nature itself, really, there is that which is above nature. And nature itself is above nature. There is no natural reason why nature should happen. Within a context of supernatural, then nature can happen. And it has a reason. But it's a supernatural context. The inyan in this, what the Kli says that there is 8 and A and the Kiner and 10 and so forth. The inyan is on this. The Hine Isa B'Tshuvas or Rashba. Chela Kalef Siman Tes. In Tshuvas or Rashba it says, Sheyesh Moyadim Shel Shiva Yom, that there are Yomim Tovim that consist of 7 days. V'yesh Shel Shmeina Yom, and then there are Yomim Tovim that are of 8 days. Which Yom Tov is 8 days? Sukkot is 8 days. We have Chanukah is also 8 days. But that's a Yom Tov D'Rabbanan. But the Yom Tov from the Torah, that it should be 8 days, is Sukkot. Because Midrabbanan we have 8 days in Pesach also. And Sukkot is 9 days. But on the Torah, Pesach is 7 days and Sukkot is 8 days. So he explains further. Shivas Yomim, the 7 days, Hein, Neged, Shivas Mebreshis. They correspond and represent the 7 days of creation. K'meish, of course, as the Pasuk says, Sheish, Es Yomu, also Havai Zeshamayim V'Zoretz, V'ayim Ashvi Shabbos. That 6 days Hashem created Shemayim V'Oretz, and the 7th day Shabbos. And then on the 7th day he rested. The 7th day is part of this cycle of creation. V'hein Shivas Yimei HaBinyan. And thus, these 7 days represent 7 days of Shivas Yimei HaBinyan, 7 days of building. During these 7 days, the world is built up in completion. V'nichlal Shabbos Gamkin B'mei HaBinyan. Shabbos itself is also included in the category of Yimei HaBinyan, the days of building, just like the other midas. Even though Shabbos you're not allowed to build. So how is Shabbos included in Yimei HaBinyan? That is understood on basis what the Medrash Shabbos says, our Apostle. And the Medrash makes a comment on the Apostle, Vaychal Elokim Mayem HaShvi. That on the 8th, on the 7th day, Vaychal Elokim. Vaychal means Hashem ended, completed. What's mean he completed? He completed on the 6th day. 7th day he didn't do anything. So what is what Vaychal Mayem HaShvi, that he completed on the 7th day? So the Medrash says, Ma hoyohoilom choseir menucha. What was the world missing after the world was finished creating? It was missing menucha. Bo Shabbos, bo menucha. And Shabbos came, and that menucha also came. And menucha is something which the world is missing by itself. It has to have menucha. And therefore, menucha is provided by Shabbos. Shabbos completed the creation by adding this quality of menucha. Bo Shabbos of menucha. And this is why Shabbos is also one of the Yimei HaBinyan, or the days of building the world, because the contribution of Shabbos is part of the world. Menucha. V'hameyadim shal shmeinu yomim. And then the Rashba says the meyadim yom tovim that consist of 8 days. Hein l'maylo mishiva. They are above the 7. The 8 days meyadim. This is something representing something greater. In representing 8, which is above 7. Because in fact, we can ask, how can there be a Yom Tov that's bigger than 7 days? 7 days represents the entire cycle of the world. How can you have, so 7 days represents the entire world essentially. How can you have 8 days of a Yom Tov? What's the answer? That it actually represents something greater than world. That's why it extends to 8 days. The Shiva Simei HaBinyan, Hein Shiva Simei HaHekef. The 7 days of Binyan, of building, this is represented in the world with the 7 days HaHekef, 7 days of the surrounding of going out in this circle around making a complete circle around the world. The l'choire in a move on. The l'choire in a move on, because seemingly we have a question here. Ma she'onu moinim tomid Yom Rishon, Yom Sheni, U'Shlishi. We continually repeat our counting. And we say this is the first, the second, and the third day. Until we get to Shabbos and then start all over again, first, the second, and third. How does that fit? V'halei, but is it not that Nibriyaz ha'olam ad ato, from the creation of the world till now, kvar yesh alovim urvoves yom, there are thousands and tens of thousands of days. Not 8 days, not 7 days. V'loma meaning tomid rishon v'shein. So how can we count constantly? This is the first day. And the second day, it's many times more than that. Elo, except the reason that we call 7 days is sheheini me'hahekev. Because there's 7 me'abinyan representing me'hahekev. Hahekev means the rotation. And when it rotates in a rotating manner, it always comes back to the same point again. That choshen they repeat in a circle back again. They start all over again. All right. So we got the point. How Teva is Lamayra Teva. It's an interesting phenomenon in our physical world. We readily say that a physical entity that's made of physical material is nothing but a physical material. It's a limited, it's a finite thing. It's just this piece of metal, piece of this, piece of that. And all it is this little piece of metal. That's all it is. What is metal? Certain element has a certain nature. Everything about metal can be defined and described, and that's all it is. And then, when we understand a little bit deeper and closer, start examining the whole phenomenon of a Metzias, of something Gashmi, we come to realize something completely different. You can take any piece of metal, or wood for that matter, and break it in two. Then you can take each one of these halves and cut those in two. You can take each one of these quarters and cut those in two. You can take the eighths and cut those in two. You can take the 16ths and cut those in two. You can take the 32nds and cut those in two. And you know something? You can be cutting this indefinitely. There's nothing that says it has to be this. It is really indestructible. No matter how minute, it's indestructible. Certainly theoretically, we can't practically have it because we don't see subatomic presences. But theoretically, it's infinite. And furthermore, You can take wood and you burn it. Right? You destroyed it. Did you destroy it? You didn't destroy anything. You destroyed its construction. But every bit of the ingredients that were in the wood is still there. It's indestructible. You can bring it back to its components and subcomponents and sub-subcomponents. But in essence, it's indestructible. Why? How can you explain such a thing? If it has a limited presence, it's a natural thing that it's a limited presence. So then when you do away with that presence, then there's nothing there. It's wood. So you do away with it. It's no longer wood. It's no longer wood. There's nothing there.
What does it mean do away with it? To do away with it, you would have to have somewhere to put it outside of time and space. This is a principle in physics. It's one of the foundational principles of physics, that matter cannot be created or destroyed. You said, like, if you destroy it, then do it. So where do you do away with it? Where do you break it?
My dear friend. Listen to what you're saying. When there's a principle in physics that matter cannot be destroyed, that's not a natural statement. Physics has no way of explaining that. There's no natural principle that says this is how it has to be. That's exactly what we're talking about. It cannot be. Yeah, it cannot be. What does that mean? It means that its original being, when you saw it as a finite being, it was not a finite being. It had this finite definition for this moment. But then it can become something else, something else. And ultimately it cannot be destroyed. That's a finite being.
So anything cannot be destroyed, it's going to be...
Sorry?
Anything cannot be destroyed, but only change the form becomes...
That's right. Cannot be destroyed. And when they try to destroy something, like you take an atom and you split it, and when you destroy the very essence of it, it resists, it becomes a world-shattering event.
But you can call this...
See, this is the thing. We're used to things, and we fail to recognize what we're looking at. That's exactly what it says. Harigilus ein and we could say an argument that is really self-contradicting, and we don't realize it because it's a natural thing. We're used to it.
If it cannot be destroyed, it has to be... So it has to remain in the nature, in the world.
Then next time, don't make it so strong. Okay? Take it out. Thank you. What?
If you cannot destroy it, if you cannot destroy this cavity, so always remain in the world, so it's like totally nature, because it's existing, and you cannot make disappear.
Anything not destructible is not natural.
Nothing destructible.
Nothing destructible. The whole idea of nature is saying, one thing leads to another. But when you say, no, there is something here which is not worldly at all. In the world, everything changes. There is certain thing that's not changeable.
You burn the wood, it's changed.
What?
If If you burn the wood, it's changed.
You changed, that's right, you changed only its form.
It's not wood anymore. It's something
That's right,
else.
its form. Wood is a form of elements in a certain in a certain combination. That's all it is. But the very presence of it is very basic. It's way beyond being wood. So, what is this? This is wood. It's not wood. It's the form of wood. So all nature that we refer to nature is the finite aspect of existence. But essentially, this is based on the infinite aspect of existence. And again, we are so blinded that we don't realize that this statement, this statement of physics, that matter cannot be created nor destroyed, is a direct contradiction to the entire theory of self-creation of the world. It's disproving it. Not a contradiction, it's disproving it. And we are oblivious to it because our minds are very limited to perceive what's going on. And what we're discussing now is entirely identical to what I mentioned to you many times, when the Rebbe said, if there be chas v'sholom nuclear war, but the world can never be destroyed. Because the world is not a natural phenomenon. It's a godly phenomenon. Just like nature itself. It cannot be destroyed.